team named the other star from Arabic culture.
Yes, that is quite true. And I love this image you have displayed up here because it's the reason we named it after Arabic culture. I've always been fascinated in how the Arabic culture did tremendous amounts for astronomy with naming stars and had lots of things about legends and sky maps and really began a great scientific view of the sky as part of a cultural view.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech and Space podcast. I'm your host, Haya, and today's episode is very special. When we look at the sky and see those tiny twinkling dots, we are actually looking into the past, seeing what countless cultures before us saw. Each of them named a star, told a story about it. Personally, I love the stars the most, and I always say that we are a lot like them. We both have life cycles, stories, and so much more. So the reason that I said this episode is special because we have a special guest, an astrophysicist who studies the universe and everything in it. Welcome to the show, Dr. Steve.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for taking the time for having this call with me today. I'm very excited to share your name with Tech and Space fans. So to give a short introduction about you to the fans, Dr. Steve is a senior research scientist at NASA Ames Research Center who's recently have discovered another star. And his discovery made me really interested in interview him and have this call with him today. So please, Dr. Steve, tell us more about yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Haya. Yeah, so I do a lot of work on studying stars and trying to find stellar companions. So that is a star that actually orbits another star. And the excitement we're going to talk about today is that we discovered a companion to the very famous, very bright star Betelgeuse in the constellation Orion. I see it there on your screen right under the moon, I guess that is. And so we had this great opportunity to use a very large telescope on a mountaintop in Hawaii and use a very special type of imaging camera and discovered this very faint, very close companion to the star Betelgeuse.
So I actually want to know everything about the discovery. But first, let's talk about yourself. I noticed that you have written books in the field of science fiction.
I have. Correct.
Yes, could you please tell us more about that?
Sure. So years ago, I worked for a NASA space mission named Kepler.
Yeah.
Kepler was very famous at the time and still is in some circles. Kepler was a space mission launched to find exoplanets, that is, planets that orbit other stars. And it was very successful in that. And so a friend of mine and myself decided that why not write science fiction stories using real planets that have been discovered instead of making up other worlds. We used the real planets that Kepler and wrote science fiction stories where they were based on those real planets.
So what's the book you have written that you recommended for those people who are interested in?
There are two of them. One is called A Kepler's Dozen, and the other is called Kepler's Cowboys.
Definitely it will be on my book list. The reason that I asked you this because I have found that most people who are passionate about space often have non-scientific side to their interest. So it's amazing that you are a researcher who studies real exoplanet and star, but also wrote science fiction books.
I think science fiction kind of got me into the field as well. I always was fascinated by the night sky, but I've always enjoyed science fiction.
That's amazing. I also want to ask you, at what moment in your life you decided that you want to be in astronomy field as a career?
Well, that's a very good question. You know, I grew up in a very small town and in a state called Pennsylvania in the United States, which is over on the eastern side of the country. And nobody really knew what an astronomer was. My people in my town either worked for the railroad or worked in coal mines. And so I just had this fascination with the night sky and just wanted to learn everything about it. And so I took a lot of classes in math and a lot of classes in science and just kept deciding I wanted to do something with the sky. And probably about when I was maybe in college, I realized, oh, you could actually have a job being an astronomer. And so I didn't really even know that for a while. I had read about, you know, like William Herschel, he was an astronomer, but he was a rich guy that had his own house and his own telescope. And I thought that's what you had to do to become an astronomer. So I just kept taking classes and going to school and along the way. various, yeah, they kind of pointed me in the direction, and then I ended up being an astronomer.
So let's talk about your big discovery, the Betelgeuse's companion. Dr. Steve, you recently discovered that Betelgeuse is a binary star. And for a long time, there were signs that it might have a companion. But because Betelgeuse is a big, bright star, made it nearly impossible to directly observe any dimmer object nearby. So tell us about the journey of your discovery.
Yes, that's a very good summary. So let's first just talk about Betelgeuse itself, just because it's such a fun star. So Betelgeuse is called a red supergiant, and Betelgeuse is a very large star. If you put Betelgeuse where our sun is, its outer surface would extend almost to the planet Jupiter. So
Uh-huh.
Betelgeuse is a very, very large star, much,
Mhm.
much larger than our sun. It's also much more massive than our sun. It's about 16 or 18 times the mass of our sun. So for many years, almost 100 years, Betelgeuse has had these hints in measurements of it that it has something that is periodic. So something happens every so often with a period of about 6 years, and it could never be explained because Betelgeuse is, while it's very large, Betelgeuse could not pulsate or do anything on such a long period. It would have to be even bigger than it is. So finally, in the fall of 2024, so about 8 months ago, two groups of scientists completely independently each studied about 100 years of all sorts of observations of Betelgeuse. And they both concluded the same thing, that the best solution to this thing that has a period every 6 years must be a companion star that orbits
Mm.
Betelgeuse. So I
Okay.
decided in around December, based on those papers, I had a large telescope that I could use, and I had a special instrument that I built and I could use, and perhaps we could actually directly see the companion. And it's a difficult measurement. Betelgeuse is so bright that most telescopes can't look directly at Betelgeuse. It's just too bright. And
Okay.
you also need to not only look directly at Betelgeuse, you need to be able to separate Betelgeuse from the companion star, which is incredibly close. You can't really tell that in the beautiful image you have up right now. But those two objects are so close together that you have to have a very large telescope to separate them. But of course, a very large telescope means that a very bright star is even brighter. So it was a difficult measurement to make, but it turned out there it was.
Wow. So how did you image this object that hasn't even like I think it's still not become a full star, right?
Right. The companion object is very low mass. It's
Mm.
only a little more massive than the sun. And Betelgeuse, in astronomy terms, is a very young star. It's only 10 million years old. I know
Okay.
that's a lot of years, but for stars, that's very young. And so Betelgeuse, being very massive, has already evolved to become a supergiant star, while its companion star, being very low mass, has not even yet become a full-fledged star.
Okay. So we know that Betelgeuse is a massive star, and the final stages of its life, it's expected to explode as a supernova. What will happen to the other
That is
star?
correct. Oh, it won't be good for the other star.
Really?
It will not be very good for the companion. Yes, if Betelgeuse would explode, which it will someday, the companion star would likely be completely destroyed in the explosion.
So I have read NASA's article about your discovery, and I found out that you and your team named the other star from Arabic culture.
Yes, that is quite true. And I love this image you have displayed up here because it's the reason we named it after Arabic culture. I've always been fascinated in how the Arabic culture did tremendous amounts for astronomy with naming stars and had lots of things about legends and sky maps and really began a great scientific view of the sky as part of a cultural view of the sky. So when I found out that Betelgeuse was actually a female and not a male as we kind of portray in the Western world with
Yeah.
using the Greek mythology of Orion as the hunter, then I thought it would be fun to. And so, since this star orbits Betelgeuse or goes around Betelgeuse, we decided to pick a name that means her bracelet or a star that would
سوارها.
orbit Betelgeuse.
Yeah,
Right.
because
In English, that's how we pronounce it. How would you pronounce it in Arabic?
سوارها.
Very lovely. Yes. Anyways, it's
Yeah,
beautiful. I love this image. It's very great.
because as we know, Betelgeuse names actually comes from Arabic. It means the shoulder or the hand of الجوزاء. So you and your team named the company star سوارها, meaning her bracelet. I was honestly amazed. It's such a beautiful connection. And for that reason, I named this episode Same Sky, Different Languages, because I believe we share the same stars and all the sky and knowledge, but have different languages. And so, no matter what, and no matter how different we are, the stars connect us.
That's very great. I love it.
Yeah. So, speaking of
Very
stars,
nice.
I always get this question: how do you name a star? Because in the past, stars had meaningful names, each one with a story and a name rooted in culture or mythology. But today, many of those names have been replaced by numbers and codes used for scientific classification. Yeah, so what has changed? I mean, like, how do you name a star, and what's the difference between the old and current methods?
Yeah, so the old method or the original or the cultural method was I think stars had much more meaning to our everyday lives. The
Exactly.
night sky, of course, in the olden days, there weren't lights everywhere, and so everybody could see these spectacular views of the night sky, the bright stars, the Milky Way galaxy, right? So now a lot of people live in big cities and they don't even know what the sky looks like, right? They can't see any
Yes.
of the stars. So currently, many stars are found by many different ways, and you're exactly right. They all have these very long numbers
Mm,
associated with them, and nobody really names stars anymore. So there's no longer an official way to name a star. It's not like I just mail this name into somebody, and all of a sudden the star is named this. The International Astronomical Union, which is the big astronomy group in the world, they used to take suggestions from people that found new stars for names, but they started getting overwhelmed with, a new catalog comes out and there's 10 million stars in it or something. And these are stars that no one's ever going to see with their eyes. So they've just decided we're not going to really officially name things anymore. So now how stars get names are that someone like myself writes a paper. We have this kind of very culturally idea about just calling this star mostly for ourselves and for people that would
mm.
understand, calling it Sohara. And then if it becomes kind of common use, people will just use it. And it will sort of by default become the name of that star.
Okay. Actually, I really I don't like the scientific names for now. It's so complicated.
It
But the reason,
is for us as well.
yeah, the reason I asked you about the old and current methods, it's because I'm really interested in history. And I always say that history matters. When we read about a star or a planet, we should also learn about its history and see how people in the past understood it. So I'm curious, does history actually help us in today's science, or just relates to, traditional naming?
I think learning and reading history helps us in life, and I wish more people would read about history so we quit repeating the same things we've repeated in the past and learn
Exactly.
better. So I really agree with your opinion. One of the things that I would make my students do when before we would go to the telescope is
Mm,
I would make them learn about a constellation in the sky, like Orion or the Big Dipper or something, and
yeah.
they would have to learn some history about that constellation. They would have to learn some of the star names in that constellation, and then they would have to go outside at night and point out that constellation to me and tell me about it.
Wow.
And all of those students, when I would first tell them this, they would all think this is kind of stupid. And then
Yeah, a
after
waste
they
of
did
time.
it, they loved it. They thought it was so
Exactly.
great. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah, there's so much information about the history. Like everyone should know about them, even though it's history, but still.
they should. I agree.
So, today's episode isn't just about the discovery and learning what stars are. It's about understanding them on a deeper level. So, what secrets do they hold as you study stars?
Now, they hold many secrets. For example, Betelgeuse, in the case we're talking about today,
Mm.
for many, many years, probably 30 or 40 years, was known to rotate as a star much faster than it should have rotated. And nobody could understand that mystery. But now we
Wow.
know, because it has a companion star, that that companion star affects the rotation of Betelgeuse and allows it to rotate faster than it should. So finding this star has helped us solve some other mysteries about Betelgeuse. And I think that's true. If we study stars in detail, we'll learn more of the mysteries of them that we don't understand today.
Interesting. Yeah, exactly. I agree. Also, I'm aware that you are interested in variable stars specifically.
Yes.
Yeah, can you share your knowledge about variable stars? How do you study them? And why did you choose to study variable stars instead, of regular stars?
Sure. So the distinction is somewhat of a nuance. For example, if you would go out and look at the sun, and don't look at it
Mm.
just with your eyes, but if you have special glasses, you can look at our star, the sun, and the sun occasionally will have star spots on its surface, and then those spots will change over time. And so, at some level, the sun is a variable star. It just is a variable star that doesn't vary much. Where other stars, like Betelgeuse or stars that explode, they're variable and they change dramatically. And so, to me, the studying of variable stars was a way that you could study a star, and within your lifetime, even within a few years,
Mm.
that star would change and would allow you to get more information on that star because of how
Wow.
it changed. So I've
Yeah.
just always been fascinated by the fact stars are so far away and the universe is so big, but some of them actually change on very short time scales.
And what type did you exactly study? Because I think there's four types of variable stars, right?
There's many types. I mean, there's
Really?
four main ones. All of them are broken down, and scientists, we put everything in bins, right? And
Yeah.
if you keep looking at things, you'll find more and more ways to bin them. So I've studied lots of kinds of variable stars. The two main ones probably are stars like Betelgeuse that do something called pulsations. They actually get larger in size and smaller in size by about
Really?
20% of their size over time. And then I've also spent a lot of time studying things called cataclysmic variables. And these are very close binary stars where material from one star is being gravitationally pulled off its surface and it falls down to the surface of the other star and
Interesting.
causes quite uh, large and quick explosions on those stars.
So stars are more than just beautiful lights in the night sky. There are time machines, storytellers, and cosmic guides. And as I end episodes with a question from Suhail. You know Suhail?
Yes,
Yes. So Suhail asks you, what's your favorite star name meaning?
my favorite star name meaning.
Yeah.
Wow, maybe it's the word nova, and there are stars that are nova and they explode, and the word translates to new star or guest star, and I like that because while we look up at the night sky, occasionally new things happen.
Mm.
Guest stars appear, and then they also disappear. So it is changing, even though it looks very constant and mostly is.
So thank you so much, Dr. Steve, for joining us today. Do you have anything to share with us to Tech and Space fans?
Well, thank you, Haya. I appreciate your view of the night sky. I appreciate your same sky, different languages, and your philosophy of learning about history. And the sky does connect us all. I would just like to share, I think, that keep looking up, find a dark place, go stare at the night sky, and just imagine and enjoy.
Thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. And I wish you more success and discoveries. This was Tekia in Space, and I'm Haya. Don't forget to follow, share, and leave a review. And remember, next time you look up, you're not just seeing light, you are seeing history.